if you do a real poll, you have to trust that the people tallying the votes are tallying them properly, and then that they're acting in accordance with what the outcome of that vote is. So with blockchain, with DeFi, with on-chain smart contracts, you can do all that with code.
What is going on, Ada Nation? Welcome to Dapp Central. My name is Fareed, and in today's video, we're going to be sitting down with Marty, the founder of the Paideia DAO management platform. Marty, welcome to Dapp Central. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm good. I am good. We had a pretty nice run in and we talked about Coinecta, but today we're going to be talking about something a little bit more different. So, what I usually like to do is just give the viewers a quick heads up as to what we're going to be discussing, and then I'll turn it over to you to give us a brief introduction to yourself, and then we're going to jump into everything Paideia. So the first
Great.
thing we're going to do is talk about the DAO and exactly what Paideia is. After that, we're going to talk about why you've potentially chosen the Ergo and the Cardano blockchains, as well as some of the advantages of building on a platform that utilizes the EUTXO model. Following that, we're going to touch on transparency and fairness, as well as some of your strategic partnerships that you've landed so far. And then last but not least, your future vision for the Paideia protocol. So that said, do you mind giving us a little bit of your background and just explaining what the Paideia platform is?
Sure. My background with crypto started, I guess, over 10 years ago now. I was mining back in 2013, and so I've been in the industry for a little while. I was aware of Ethereum when it was pretty new, and uh, once I started to see EUTXO blockchains like Cardano and Ergo start to develop, I thought for me that was kind of like I saw the progression from Bitcoin to Ethereum with smart contracts, which was like Bitcoin plus smart contracts, to now an EUTXO version of that in Cardano and Ergo, which is it sticks to the traditional the UTXO model of Bitcoin while providing that extra functionality of smart contracts. So kind of started there, and then around 2021, we launched ErgoPad, which is a launch pad on Ergo. With some success, we've got a strong community over there. And then Paideia was actually the first IDO we did on ErgoPad. And so Paideia aims to, we kind of decided that because these projects were going to be launching tokens on the blockchain, it would be helpful for the community to have a role in how those are governed. And in order to do DAO governance, you need tools for that, because not everyone, the tools themselves are quite complicated. If somebody raises funds to build a project, they don't want to spend their time building their own DAO tools. So that was sort of the progression. It's like we did ErgoPad. It's like now we need to manage our DAO for ErgoPad. We want other people to be able to manage theirs when they launch a token. And so we thought, let's build Paideia and let's do it that way.
So it sounds like Paideia is a platform that will allow for people to get tools and access to create their own DAOs. Do you mind touching on the importance of DAOs and why we need them, especially in a trustless environment like in crypto?
Yeah, I think for me, I think a DAO is important because it sort of allows you, like, let me go back. I think that the point of crypto is to allow you to interact with people in a trustless and peer-to-peer way. So like if I want to send somebody money, I don't have to know who they are. I don't have to trust them at all. And I can send them money anywhere in the globe, right? Same with receiving it. They don't have to know who you are, trust you. You can just transfer money through an address. You don't need to talk to a bank. You don't need to give anyone your info. It's 100% trustless and peer-to-peer. So I think that philosophy kind of extends itself into DeFi, or the philosophy behind DeFi, decentralized finance, is that, if I want to invest in options, I don't necessarily need to have a broker do that for me. I don't necessarily need to trust a banking institution to do that for me. These days, you go to the bank and say, I want $5,000 in cash. They're like, well, what are you going to use it for? I don't know if we're going to let you take it. It's like, this is my money. I want it. Give it to me, right? I think that we should eliminate that kind of thing. Not everyone possibly agrees with that, but I think that crypto empowers us to provide as much trust as we are willing to do, right? And so, with that background, moving on to DAOs, it's like if we're going to have shared resources with a shared goal, I think it's important for there to be a way to behave in a somewhat trustless way uh, and still act and align our goals, right? So let's say we want to raise $1 million for a project, and who's going to hold on to that money? How do we trust the person that's going to hold on to that money? With an automated DAO, we can put that money in a protected treasury on blockchain. And if we trust the vote structure and the way that votes are tallied, because it's all on chain, it's all calculated. This isn't something that you're expecting, like with a I'm kind of diverging and moving around the topic, but if you do a real poll, you have to trust that the people tallying the votes are tallying them properly, and then that they're acting in accordance with what the outcome of that vote is. So with blockchain, with DeFi, with on-chain smart contracts, you can do all that with code. And so that $1 million can go into the treasury in a DAO. And anytime that as a collective group that has a portion of ownership of that million, we can vote on the outcome. And then the code on chain will ensure that that money is sent to the correct place. So that's a bit of a long-winded answer. I apologize, but I think it's really important to have that functionality on chain so that we can manage ourselves properly and work together with people we don't necessarily know that well or entirely trust, and still
That's
be
a
very productive.
no. You're totally fine. This is the point of the interview, right? To get you on here to hear your thoughts and to get your perspective as to why you're putting so much time and effort into a platform like Paideia. One thing that you just mentioned there was being able to track votes on chain. I'm in the United States, and I know that this can be a touchy situation, right? But if you take a look at the elections, just historically, right? There's always been somewhat of a cloud surrounding any official counts. So utilizing platforms like these, right? We see the problem in our everyday lives, but utilizing platforms like these that are fully transparent, that allow for anybody to go back and actually verify that things are as they say they are, I think is huge, right? Not having to rely on some sort of centralized party or some sort of third party to tell you what the result is, but you actually being able to get up yourself and do the due diligence and do the research is a really huge part of this that just any DAO infrastructure on crypto brings. Obviously, that's a key offering of Paideia alone, right? But I'm just thinking just broadly in the sense of crypto and DAO and just transparency. And as you mentioned there towards the end, trustlessness, right? And so very similar thing, with something like Project Catalyst, where we are able to vote and you are able to see things on chain. So I like the way that we're moving towards the space. And I just want to kind of maybe pivot a little bit and jump into some of the benefits and key differences that you see with Paideia as opposed to other DAO platforms. It's not to say that, they're any less, but I think that with any product, right, there are some strengths. And so do you mind maybe touching on some of the key offerings that a platform like Paideia brings into the space?
Yeah, definitely. So I think that the DAO offerings are definitely getting better every day. But what we wanted to focus on was to make a completely zero barriers to entry for any user to participate in a DAO. So I don't have to learn how to do much blockchain stuff. I have to get a wallet, obviously. I have to have the tokens, right? But then we abstract the rest of that away. So, we go to, if as a user, you go to the website, the Paideia app, uh, and it's as easy to use as Facebook. It's as easy to use as like any other app that you're used to using on your phone or on your computer any day. It's all laid out and presented nicely. Uh, but all that is it's sort of like a cover for the underlying blockchain stuff that's supposed to be very reliable, very robust, and uh, where you could trust that that is taking place in the background. The other thing I want to express is that the way that we've designed Paideia, it's all on chain under the website. The website gives you a front end where you can present a proposal, and you can add some data to that proposal, like if you click the development update there, that's just a discussion, right? That's not an actual vote. But it gives you, if you go to discussion info, this stuff's not on chain yet, because that kind of data is like, it's quite big, and on chain, you don't want to have too much data. But we are going to make it an IPFS thing at some point, to where the actual proposal will be on chain. This data will be on IPFS. And if anything was happened to Paideia, this website went down, whatever, you'd still be able to run your DAO. You'd still be able to access it. It's all on chain. It's all immutable. It can't be affected by any malicious party. And so that's the goal behind it, is to give you a really robust platform that makes it super easy to vote. And if you need to download this code and run it on your own machine, it's possible too.
I like that. And just looking at the layout of the website, as you mentioned, very user friendly, very simple to understand. And I actually had not realized how far along in the development process you guys were, to where you guys already have a couple of DAOs that I showed on the previous screen, which have already been onboarded into Paideia. Obviously, the Paideia project itself is a part of the DAO. I also saw NetaBTC and a few others. Now, that's going to take me straight into the next topic, right? So some of those projects are based on Cardano. If I'm not mistaken, you mentioned earlier that you actually had kicked things off on the Ergo network, right? So why Ergo and why Cardano now?
So just to backtrack for one moment, the website that you see there is Web 2 demo only. What that means is there's no votes, there's just discussions. So Anita BTC, actually, I think Neta it has an Ergo and a Cardano token. But that Web 2 demo is the front end for what we currently have finished on Ergo. We're just going into beta now. And we can touch on that later if you'd like. But there is a beta version that's now live where you can actually vote on Ergo. And then that will be coming to Cardano next. So the reason we chose Ergo is, well, we had our Ergo pad, launchpad on Ergo. For me, I mean, I hate to quote Charles here, but Ergo is the spiritual successor of Bitcoin, according to Charles, right? And I tend to agree with that. I mean, with less of a platitude, I feel that it's like, Ethereum did a lot of things great, but I think that the accounting model has some drawbacks to it. The gas fees are very high when there's a lot of congestion, and there's a lot of safety concerns with just the fact that you need to approve a smart contract to have access to your wallet in order to interact with it. I know I don't know enough about the code to know whether or not that smart contract is malicious or not. But on Ergo and on Cardano, you don't need to know anything. You're not giving the smart contract permission to do anything. You can see everything that's leaving your wallet when you interact with it. And you know for a fact that if something's leaving that you don't want to leave, you can just cancel the transaction. That's not the case on Ethereum. And that's why there's so many hacks on Ethereum, and there's so many times that people get, you see it every day that somebody had their wallet drained. And it's like you interact with one smart contract that introduces some level of malicious code by accident that you weren't aware of, even if it was a trustworthy, or it was an audited design, you never know, right? That smart contract there could be an exploit that somebody finds later down the line, and you've approved it, months ago, that can drain your wallet, right? That's impossible on Ergo and Cardano. So right off the bat, it's like, this is Ethereum 2.0 for me. This is like, Ethereum was a great proof of concept to me. Here we are, and now we can do it with safety as well, and we can protect people who are, not everyone's a developer and a pro at this, right?
I think what you said makes sense, right? Security. And I think another aspect too, that both Ergo and Cardano bring to the table is decentralization. Now, I'm not so deep into the Ergo ecosystem, but I definitely see the amount of node operators and stake pool operators that we have. And I see how strong Cardano is specifically when it comes to decentralization and just comparing how easy it is to interact with the networks as opposed to, like you mentioned, Ethereum. It's not a knock on those ecosystems, but I think as we mature, right, just like with, for example, cars, right? You take a look at cars 100 years ago versus cars now, and they're completely different. As generations pass, there's new iterations on these types of inventions. And I think it's no different for blockchain. Bitcoin, it was great, did a lot of things, but as you mentioned, doesn't support smart contracts. Ethereum comes along, it does support smart contracts. And then Cardano and some of these other networks come along and they do what Ethereum did, but they also solve issues that the people that were developing Ethereum may not have seen in the time that they were building it, or just may not have had the tools to actually handle at the time that they were developing it, right? So I think a clear example of that is just the staking mechanism on Ethereum and how that has basically changed in the last year or so, and of course, hindsight is 2020, but
Mhm.
I don't think that, your decision to utilize Ergo and Cardano, what is the word that I'm looking for here? It's a sound decision, right? So I'm with you there. Your reasoning makes sense. Let's jump into the next thing that I have here. So right now, we are talking about transparency and fairness with respect to DAOs. Are there any mechanisms in place to ensure that, and we did touch on the fact that everything is on chain, but is there anything else that's in place to make sure that things done through the Paideia DAO management platform is fair and that it is transparent, in addition to everything obviously being done on chain?
Yeah, I mean, we are going to introduce as many warnings and safeguards as we can into the front end of the platform. Um, if there's something that somebody could do, which may be malicious, we'll flag that. And also, we're introducing other governance mechanisms, which will allow people to experiment with different ways in running a DAO. Um, like let's say one example. I mean, there's so many ways, that emergent ways that somebody could take advantage of a DAO, right? Um, every vote takes some kind of effort, right? Not every DAO member is going to fully read through every vote, every proposal. Not everyone is going to vote on every proposal. So, like, if you want to hide a malicious proposal, you can submit a whole bunch of proposals and just detract everyone's energy and just make it so that there's not enough focus on the one malicious one that you're proposing, right? Um, so we'll try and flag things like that. We're going to make sure that people have governance options where they can avoid things like that. So one option is going to be optimistic governance. That was designed by a DAO platform. Uh, I think it was on Ethereum, and it was based on a proposal by Vitalik. So what they suggested was, and this was designed for optimistic voting, which doesn't necessarily specifically relate to DAOs. But anyway, the idea is you can vote for certain people who are your whitelisted individuals. And because not everyone has time to vote on everything, and not everyone understands everything, you can say these are the people that we think are responsible for running the DAO. They're the only people who can make a proposal, and all proposals they make pass after a certain amount of time, unless anyone in the DAO says, "No, I want this to come to a vote." So what that does is it speeds up the process. It means that, if you've got a group of managers that you think are running this thing properly, you can put them in place. But then all of a sudden, if they decide we're going to try and take all the money out, um, you would hope that people are paying enough attention that they can say, cancel that. We want this to come to a vote. And then there's a discussion that happens. And the whole discussion thing is available on our Web2 platform, right? So you'll be able to leave comments and talk. It won't be a Google Doc. It won't be a Discord. It'll be right there on the proposal. So you can say, hey, I want this to go to a vote. Here's why. Here's my reasoning for that. And then everyone can discuss that before the vote happens. And then it can go to a vote, right? So I digress a little bit, but and even with standard, a basic DAO where everyone can make a proposal and everyone can vote on every proposal, you'll have things like quorum. which means a certain number of people have to vote on everything. So you can't just make a proposal and make a bunch of proposals to hide the fact that, you know, you're the only one that voted yes for your own proposal, right? Uh, so there's various things, there's various safeguards, and we'll implement more as we go too.
That's really satisfying to hear. I think one thing that you mentioned there that I think we need to figure out a way just to get around is voter fatigue, right? So people
Mm,
just getting plagued by so many things to vote that they then just become disinterested in the entire voting process. I think we see a clear example of this as a part of Project Catalyst, where this year
yeah.
we had over 1,500 proposals, or this latest funding round, I should say, because obviously there's more than one funding round that could happen per year. But we had an uptick from 1,000 proposals in the previous funding round to 1,500 now. And so people are really only able to upvote things that they have the time to read and that they feel comfortable supporting, which 1,500 of them is just not feasible by any single person,
Mhm.
given the length and the amount of time and energy that it takes to actually read a proposal. So I think that's just a broader thing that we have to figure out a way to circumvent. But as you mentioned, you guys are taking the approach with the quote unquote whitelisted managers to kind of have a piece of the trust of the community, which to me somewhat mimics delegated representatives or delegate representatives that they're trying to roll out as a part of the governance era for SIP number 1694, where you
Mhm.
can
Yeah.
basically provide your stake over to somebody that you trust in the community and let them kind of vote on your behalf, right? And so you could then move your stake, to whoever that you think will have the best interest for you, in hopes that they're doing the due diligence, that they've put enough time and dedication to whatever it is that is being voted upon to make the right decision for you. So again, I think those kinds of mechanisms are what we're going to need to see, especially as the DAO space matures. But it's really good to hear that you guys are taking thoughts and taking preventative measures to stop the gaming, or the gamifying, I should say, of
Mhm.
these of the DAOs. So let's jump in to the next piece here. I've got a couple of other questions I want to just kind of ask before we wrap this up. Let's talk about partnerships and collaborations. So right now, as I mentioned earlier, you guys are building on Ergo. Sounds like you guys are, at the beta sign up phase now. When it comes to, I guess, either ecosystems, Ergo or Cardano, what are partnerships looking like? Who are you guys looking to, get closer with in order to onboard as many projects into the Paideia suite?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. Well, we were speaking to Clarity a little bit, who's already kind of made headway in into the DAO environment on Cardano. Um, they've, I think, implemented a decent front end, like quite functional front end for is it the Agora smart contracts? I think Summon DAO has also done some work there. Um, but and I don't know off the top of my head, but I think that, they've done that really good groundwork, and we'll try and work with them to implement that in Paideia. But I think that we're coming with more features, a broader feature set. So uh, wherever we can partner with people who've already done the groundwork, we will. I don't want to step on anyone's toes or take advantage of a competitor's work. But we did have a meeting with the Clarity team, and so we will potentially partner with their team. We're also speaking to Michele from Harmonic Labs, who's going to help us with some of the code. Um, our devs have been looking at Icon. Is it Icon?
Mhm.
And we've been doing some research on the Cardano development side. Actually, in some ways, I find Cardano development a lot easier than Ergo. There's so many more developers building tools. Like I found Mesh SDK very useful for the front end side of things, and so there's a lot of things already done that will reduce the number of roadblocks we have when we convert this from an Ergo to a cross chain project. Um, so that's basically the partners we've been speaking to so far. But we always look for more. We'll
Yeah.
expand as we go.
Of course, of course. I think you guys are almost at the sweet spot. Obviously, as you guys launch, right, there's going to be a lot more eyeballs and a lot more people wondering as to what Paideia has to offer. And if that
Mhm.
matches what they're looking for in terms of feature sets, then you could definitely imagine that they'll be reaching out and trying to strike up partnerships. A few things that you mentioned, right, with respect to Clarity DAO. I always like to say that competition is great. It pushes the cream of the crop to the top, right? When we don't have any competition within an ecosystem in a particular sector or area, what it tends to do is allow for people to kind of get complacent. It's not in a bad sense, right? But when you don't have anybody that's kind of helping to push you forward, it can be very easy to get relaxed. And so I would say it's actually somewhat of a good thing. And another thing you mentioned too was, not taking advantage of what they've already built. But I do think that also makes sense not to rebuild the wheel in
Hmm.
certain instances, right? So not
Yeah,
having to
it's a
come in here.
balance.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Not having to do double work, I think makes a lot of sense. And I always also like to say that two is better than one. So hopefully you guys can have a mutually beneficial partnership where you guys are both able to help each other out and push the entire DAO space forward with respect to Cardano and Ergo as well. Now, I don't know if they're on Ergo, but that would actually be really interesting is to see if maybe, if they can help you guys here on Cardano and then you guys can do maybe the opposite, right? And help
Yeah.
them get some exposure on the Ergo side of things. All right, let's move things along here. Now, I didn't actually write this down as a part of the agenda, but I do want to touch on this. And this is just going to be surrounding the utility token for the Paideia protocol. Do you mind giving us a little bit of information surrounding just the utility, the benefits, and what the token is going to be used for?
Yeah, so the Paideia token, it has a large role in the economics of the platform. Um, some of the things that we're working with, or we have to work out over time, is how much should it cost to make a proposal? If it's free, uh, people will just throw in, like you mentioned. I mean, 1,500 projects because it's free to apply for Catalyst funding. People were throwing in. There was like 6 taxi DAO proposals, and you know what I mean. Like, if it's too easy, if there's no barrier to entry, then people will take advantage of that. If the barrier to entry is too high, then you'll make it difficult for certain individuals or perhaps people with less resources than others to participate fairly. So using the Paideia token, we will put a fee on creating proposals and creating a DAO and various other things around the platform will have a fee in Paideia tokens. Um, there's also Paideia staking. So the platform will, while it's collecting those tokens there, it will also redistribute those tokens to Paideia token holders who stake on the platform. And that's going to be something they can vote on as well, and the DAO when it's live. So that'll be a setting. You'll be able to configure your DAO. You'll be able to configure your staking settings, and you'll also be able to distribute uh, tokens directly to stakers. In order to make a vote, you actually have to stake first. So you'll capture those rewards automatically if you're using the platform.
So just to make sure I understand, there'll be a staking feature available. There'll be a utility when it comes to creating or some sort of fee when it comes to creating a vote. Do you mind explaining that last piece one more time with the voters having to put up or use the Paideia token?
So a voter won't need to have the Paideia token. They'll just need to have the DAO token. We didn't want to charge anything for voting because I think that you want to encourage voting as much as possible. But making a proposal will have a charge because it prevents, as we mentioned earlier, like the kind of the Sybil attack where I think I'm using that correctly, where you just throw a ton of proposals there to uh, hide or a potentially malicious one in the middle. I don't think that's Sybil attack. I think that's something else. But um, like if they're free, then that's going to be uh, something that is easy to do. If they come with a cost and that cost is balanced against the benefit that they could get from doing something like that, then it'll make sense. But there is a balancing act. However, there will also be an opportunity for the community to vote on changes to that. So it's not going to be locked in. It's a setting that we can change in the future. So that's a platform setting that the smart contract can be altered after the fact while it's live.
Thanks for the clarification. We're going to jump into my second to last question, or the second to last topic, I should say, which is going to be surrounding the MVP signup. So I believe that right now you guys are accepting applicants. Can you confirm whether this is on just the Ergo side of things, Cardano, and what they can do in order to get in touch with you guys in order to join the MVP?
So right now the beta is it is just internal, and we're just slowly onboarding beta testers from the community. This is the Ergo beta. We don't have the Cardano side built yet. So you can fill out this form. Anyone can fill it out, and all you need is an Ergo wallet. You'll need like a little bit of Ergo. You don't need very much to pay blockchain fees, right? And then what we'll do is we'll send you sign up with that wallet. We'll send that wallet the beta token. So it's just a simulated Paideia token. It's a B Paideia token with no monetary value. So sign up here. We'll go through the list. I don't know the exact criteria. My marketing team will handle that. But yeah, sign up. You can find this form on Twitter, on the Paideia or X, whatever. It's twitter.com/Paideia DAO or at Paideia DAO. And check the show notes, I guess, for the spelling on that one.
Yep.
It's a Greek word, so but anyway, or it's just up in the corner there. But yeah, check us out on Twitter. It's a little bit of the way down. The beta sign up is there. Just search for beta, and you'll find it. So we're still taking applicants. So.
Perfect. Thank you. And as you mentioned, I'll leave the official link to it down below in today's video description. That way you don't have to scroll through X.
Yeah.
All right. Marty, let's go ahead and close this out here. Last and final question. Where do you see Paideia in the next couple of years? And I guess what is just the future vision for a platform like this that you're building?
Yeah, I think that Paideia could be the mainstream DAO platform for UTXO blockchains. Who knows? Maybe we expand to Solidity EVM-based blockchains later. Depends on the community and what they want. I know the liquidity is definitely there to support it financially. So, but yeah, right now we want to launch our Ergo MVP. We want to hopefully have the funding to add some more platform features that were initially planned when we started. We're keeping our fingers crossed that we got the Catalyst funding to bring it to Cardano. But if not, then we have some other plans to try and raise some funds there. So yeah, we'd love to have an MVP on Ergo and expand the features there. We'd love to have an MVP on Cardano and expand the features there, and just keep growing the platform. If the fees raised from the platform, from those platform fees that I mentioned before, can support future development, that's my ideal goal, and I would hope that the DAO votes to reinvest those profits. But it'll really be up to all the token holders. It's not my say; it's everyone.
Right. Really putting the word DAO to the test, right? You're gonna literally build this, and then you're gonna have to let it fly on its own. So
That's
really
right.
interesting concept there. And again, I want to thank you for your time, Marty, for joining me here today. For you, the viewer, if you guys are interested in finding out more about Paideia, what they're building on Ergo or Cardano, make sure to check out their official links down below as a part of today's description. If you found my chat here with Marty to be helpful, if you learned anything along the way, I would appreciate you if you could tap that like button. If it's your first time stopping by Dapp Central and you appreciate content like this surrounding the top builders in Cardano as well as on Ergo now, consider subscribing. And if you have any questions for myself or Marty, then please make sure to go ahead and leave them down below. That said, we'll see you guys in the next video.